Hi, this is Steve Green at Assay Technology. This will be the more detailed review of how to read our reports. I have a shorter version that lasts about a minute that focuses you in on only the concentration found column, which gives the answers that you're looking for when you turn in the badges for testing. But we'll go over some more details of the report in this video. Of course, right here is your report to information. We have two types of numbers that we assign. One is called a lab work order number, which is like a project number. So it may have many different badges on one lab work order number, and you read that by 2018, and then 10 is the month, so that's October. And so far we had received 636 work orders that month. The other kind of number we assign is called a lab sample ID. It's unique for one sample, so this only has one sample associated with this number, and ever will, because that's the year, and then the number of samples we received that year. And the lab work order number is, again, like a project number. Your project number is put in here. It can be anything you want, a name, a number, whatever you want to identify your project by. If you have two different projects, then we'll give you two different work order numbers. If you have a PO, then you can provide that. We'll put it here. Every person that gets reports has their own customer number. That means that if you work at a site with multiple people who contact us, then everyone should have their own number. It's possible to share a number, but it's more clear if everyone has their own. The notes that are associated with that person will be in this number. And when they call looking for reports, then we know it goes right to the right number. The receive date, the report date. If there was a revision to the report, then it would say date revised in here with some sort of explanation down here in the additional work order comments. And this big paragraph, which hopefully some people read from time to time, there's a couple of things that I want to mention, and that is the results have all been lab blanked. The lab blank has been subtracted, so any background from the lab blanks has been subtracted out. But if you've provided any field blanks, then we haven't field blank corrected for those values. Now we could, you can call us and ask for that, and if we did it, then I'd put a note in here saying that they were field blank corrected. The methods have pretty much all been modified in some way. That's because they're badges. If you go to the OSHA or NIOSH method where we reference, they're using tubes and pumps, but of course we're using badges. Also, the methods are a little old, so some of the instruments are more up to date, and there's some extra quality control that we do that's not part of the OSHA or NIOSH methods. Down in the sample information, as I mentioned, every single badge or item to be tested has its own lab sample ID. The lab code, AT California, AT Ohio, that's where the laboratory that did the analysis is listed. So, and then our two laboratories are listed down there with our AIHA accredited number. And let's see, the sample ID, whatever you put down is fine. Media code, so you'll see that we'll have our own 525 badge code here. Sometimes there'll be an A or a B or C. That means that the badge has gone through some sort of revision, which makes it technically different than the first one. So the 571As are a little different than the 571 straight with no letter. In that particular case, there's a sampling rate change because we changed a part. The serial numbers are entered in. Of course, the chemicals of interest and the quantity found. This is when the chemist gets the badge, this is all they care about. They want to find out how much of each one of these chemicals is on the badge, and if it's got a less than value, then we show you the reporting limit. You know that it was some value between 0 and 0.4, whatever the reporting limit is, so low that we couldn't give you a number. And if it's above the reporting limit, then we show you what these are. Now this is an intermediate number. This is not to be compared to any sort of regulatory limit. This is the amount that we found on the badge, and the concentration that the person was exposed to, you have to take into account how long they wore the badge. So in this case it was 15 minutes, so we put that down. The sample volume varies with diffusive monitors based on the chemical. So if it's a small chemical, it diffuses faster into the badge, it gives a faster sampling rate, more volume collected. If it's a bigger molecule, then it diffuses slower, and then the volume will be less. That's different than a active sampling where they're using a pump, where the pump regulates how much volume is collected. Okay, under the concentration found, if we give you a less than, we'll tell you how low we could have seen given this monitor, this chemical, and tested for this period of time. So it was some value, it's less than 0.11. For the styrene, it's 4.4 parts per million, and that is the average concentration for the period of time that you monitored. So in this case, it's a 15-minute time-weighted average. If you want an 8-hour time-weighted average, then and monitor for 8 hours, you'll automatically get an 8-hour time-weighted average. If you monitor for less or more, and you want us to convert to an 8-hour time-weighted average, then give us a call. We have a couple of questions to ask. One question is, after you finished monitoring, was there any more exposure going on? And depending on what you say, then the concentration gets adjusted differently. On the second page, or the last page of the report, we will list the chemicals that were requested, the methods that were used, and if the customer, unless the customer says they don't want to see them, we'll list regulatory limits that we believe to be most likely to be applicable to you, meaning that the OSHA limits are listed first, and then the ACJH and the NIOSH levels. So you can compare these values depending on how long you monitored the STEL for 15 minutes or the TWA for 8 hours to see how you're doing compared to OSHA limits or ACJH limits. Now this little caveat paragraph in here is saying that there may be local limits that supersede the federal limits, so to be sure to check on that, and OSHA's got a page dedicated to that listed. So if you need more detail than that, then by all means give us a call and we'll walk you through your particular report. And that's the end of this video. Thanks for listening all the way to the end.